Picture this. You're sitting in a packed courtroom. It's 1962. The tension in the air is absolutely palpable. The judges are about to hand down a decision that will literally rewrite the rules of modern labor law. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a true landmark clash, Unichoy versus the state of Kerala. We're going to dive right into the high-stakes drama, the completely bulletproof logic on both sides, and how a single ruling from over 60 years ago is still, right now, aggressively dictating how businesses are allowed to operate.
So here's the massive question that was dropped right onto the Supreme Court's desk. Is a low-paying job better than no job at all? This case was brought by a cashew factory owner from Kerala. And honestly, the argument he presented sounded incredibly logical, almost sympathetic, really. He stood there and essentially said, look, I want to pay my workers, I really do, but my business is bleeding money, it's running at a loss, and the minimum wages fixed by the state government are just way higher than what this factory can physically afford. And that's when he hit the judges with a dilemma that seemed, frankly, impossible to ignore.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this employer laid out what was basically a brilliantly disguised trap. He gave the court two very distinct outcomes to choose from. Outcome one. He's forced to pay that state-mandated minimum wage, the business goes bankrupt, the factory shuts its doors forever, and boom, every single worker loses their livelihood. Complete disaster. Or, outcome two, he's allowed to pay just a bit below the minimum wage, the factory actually stays open, and the workers, well, they get to keep their jobs, even if the pay isn't amazing. His pitch was super simple. Surely having a job at a lower wage is infinitely better than having literally no job at all, right? I mean, why force a total shutdown when people desperately need the work?
It really felt like a checkmate, a completely rational, sympathetic appeal to just keep people employed. But, here is the dramatic twist. The Supreme Court looked at this perfectly constructed, highly sympathetic trap of an argument, and they threw it out, totally rejected it. They didn't just casually disagree, they completely dismantled it from the ground up. And in doing so, they established a principle that is now the absolute bedrock of all our labor law.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how the court fundamentally redefined what a wage actually is. They introduced this idea of an irreducible minimum. The judges basically said, hey, minimum wages are not some aspirational target. They aren't something businesses should only aim for when times are good and profits are soaring. No, they are an irreducible minimum, which means they exist for one singular, absolutely non-negotiable reason: to literally keep the worker alive and physically capable of doing the job, period. The court realized that allowing anything less would basically greenlight profound exploitation. Think about it. You'd have a system where a worker's grueling labor actively generates profit for the boss, but that exact same worker can't even afford to feed their own family. The court looked at that and said, yeah, no, that simply cannot stand.
And they didn't stop there. The court got incredibly specific about how you even calculate this irreducible minimum. They based it strictly, and I mean strictly, on bare human necessities. We are talking calories, clothing, shelter, and fuel. That's it. They made it perfectly clear that these are not luxuries or perks. A worker taking home just enough money to simply survive and keep a roof over their head is not some negotiable business expense that you can cut to save a buck. The court reasoned that if an employer cannot meet this fundamental baseline, well, they aren't running a business that society has any obligation to protect. It's actually the worker who desperately needs society's protection here. And honestly, nothing captures the absolute brutal finality of the court's stance quite like their exact words. Just take a second to process this quote. If an industry cannot pay minimum wages to its workers, it has no right to exist. Let that sink in for a moment. The court didn't say the industry should, try a little harder. They didn't suggest the government step in and bail out the failing factory. They said it unequivocally. The industry literally has no right to exist.
So the crucial point here, and it's actually a hidden message that a lot of people totally miss when they first look at this case, is exactly why the Supreme Court chose this specific situation to draw such a massive line in the sand. I mean, this wasn't some huge, mega-wealthy corporation with incredibly deep pockets. Not at all. This was about cashew workers in Kerala. Back in 1962, this was one of the most intensely labor-heavy, lowest-paying, and most economically fragile industries on the planet. And the Supreme Court chose them completely deliberately.
They were sending a universal message. It's brilliant, actually, by picking the absolute most vulnerable workers in the most fragile industry imaginable. The court established a legal precedent with some serious teeth. The logic goes, if the mandate for minimum wages applies here, in an industry that is quite literally running on fumes, then it applies everywhere. Zero exceptions based on what kind of industry you're in, zero exceptions based on your current profit margins, just absolutely no exceptions, ever.
An employer's inability to pay is never, under any circumstances, a valid legal defense.
All right, let's pivot for a second. Let's move from the history to the strategy and see how this builds into something you can actually use. Because understanding the story is fantastic, but realizing how Unicoi is practically a master key you can weaponize across your law exams, that's a real game changer. It completely shifts how you attack these problems. Let's look at exactly how this maps out.
Okay, so if you get hit with a Part A short note question that just vaguely asks about minimum wages, you deploy Unichoi right out of the gate. Boom. Use it to immediately establish that minimum wages are irreducible and financial loss is no defense. Just one solid sentence, one case citation, and your core principle is locked in for top marks. Now, if you're tackling a massive Part B essay, maybe on the code on wages or just the broader concept of wage floors, use Unichoi as your canker in the intro. Drop that famous no right to exist quote we just talked about and build the entire foundation of your essay from that incredibly commanding position.
But honestly, where this case really shines is in a tricky Part C problem-solving scenario. If you get any hypothetical, literally any, where an employer is crying financial difficulty to get out of paying their staff, you just run this exact rapid-fire IRAC method. Step 1, the issue. Can an employer pay below minimum wages claiming financial loss? Step 2, the rule. Under Unicoi, absolutely not. Inability to pay is no defense. Step 3, the application. The employer's whole plea completely fails based on this precedent. And finally, Step 4, the conclusion. The employer must pay the legal minimum wage or immediately shut down operations. It is literally that straightforward. The rules section basically writes itself for you.
And you know, that is exactly why this specific case from way back in 1962 is still the very first thing cited in any real discussion about minimum wages today. So if you take only one single thing away from this explainer, let it be this absolute core truth. The employer's financial condition is entirely legally irrelevant to their strict obligation to pay minimum wages. A worker's survival is never, ever a matter of the employer's discretion.
The baseline for human survival just cannot be negotiated away simply to balance some company's spreadsheet. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to carry with you next time you see a modern labor dispute pop up in the news. Ask yourself, should a worker's right to simply survive ever be left to the complete discretion of their employer? Unichoi answered that over 60 years ago. But looking around today, it's a principle we clearly still need to fiercely protect. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the foundations of the systems around you, and I'll catch you next time.